Welcome to Moonlight Madness, and this is a reading for water, sun, moon, and rising. The tarot deck I'm using today is called the Fairy Tarot by Doreen Virtue and Radley Valentine. The Enchanted Map by Colette Baron Reid. And the crystals that I've got today are from Rainbow Runner at Hamilton. And I always sort of pop my head in to see what new decks he's got, which I get a lot of my decks from him. He can always source really good crystals that come from places that you sometimes can't get them from, like South America. He has really nice hematite bracelet that is from South America. It cost me $20, and that's help to ground you if you're very open like I am at the moment. You have to kind of shut that down, and the only way to do that is to eat food that's got like root chakra vegetables like carrots or potatoes and things like that, because they will help ground you. So the stones I'm working with, because I've pulled the High Priestess, is lapis, which is the throat chakra. It's also got a direct link to Egypt. It used to be used in a lot of their jewellery, lapis, in their crowns and their breastplates and things like that. And I have a strong affinity to Egypt. I had a past life as an Egyptian high priestess, I believe, in one of my visions that I had. I also have a rose quartz. The rose quartz is for love. So you may be a new love coming into your life, or maybe you've decided to fall in love with yourself and look after you, take better care of yourself. It's talking about opening up the heart chakra or going to another spiritual level. The beginning of a new relationship or the rebirth of a current one. And a spiritual awakening can happen when you've gone up a couple of levels and can now see clearly through the veil between space-time and the afterlife. That happened to me in 2018, I think it was, either 2018 or 2016, when I had very strong visions of future events that predicted COVID. And I still get haunted by the images. It was all these coffins lined up, and then with the Black Lives Matters, I kept thinking someone was trying to break into my house with a baseball bat, and I used to hide in my room. And this was all happening, but it happened later on. It was a future event with the riots and everything that were going on. So that was my spiritual awakening. I had a near-death experience, and I came back with all this knowledge and nowhere to put it, no one to share it with. I didn't know who to turn to. So I turned to my psychologist, and then when it all went down in 2019, I was studying at uni, and we had a Skype message, we had a Skype interview, and I was crying on the phone to her. I said, I can't believe what I saw came true, and she couldn't either. We were both crying. She's a really good psychologist, Melissa Clare, big shout out to you. She got me through what was one of my most painful events. I'd lost my job, I'd lost my family. We had a breakdown in the family, talkings, children, everything. Pretty much everything was taken from me. And then I had that near-death experience to go along with it. So, they still can't explain what I do, and I can't explain what I do, but I know I can't shut it off. There you go. So what's crossing your path is you've got I'm not going to say Taurus, but it's not. It's a Pisces, Cancer, or Scorpio, female or male around you that you have crossing your path. That is very comforting, very intuitive, could be into nursing, and she gets very exhausted because see all the sunflowers around her? That's all the people she's trying to attend to, and that can be really draining on your spiritual aura and on your sleep even. If you can't switch what I've got off, then you don't get time to rest, and your body breaks down because of the exhaustion that you're absorbing from everyone and everything. So yeah, burnout is very possible and probable if you're in a nursing type of industry. If you work in community nursing like I used to do, you getting all that energy, all that negative energy, because they come to you when they're sick, and when their vibration's low, it brings yours down as well. So try to shut yourself away like I do. So you could have a Scorpio in your chart as well. So it could You could have a lot of water. You could be a Scorpio, Cancer or Pisces person that's around you, or you may have it in your own chart for the water sign. You may have lots of placements in water. The favourite book that I read was called, I found it yesterday in a Rice's bookshop, and it's called Memories of a Geisha. And it talks about this little girl who's raised as a geisha. She gets lost, she leaves her home, and they adopt her into the geisha house, and she becomes a geisha, and that's a forgotten art form. They have tea ceremonies as well. She ends up getting married off to a wealthy businessman. He's 3 times her age. She doesn't want to, but she learns to fall in love with him. And they said to her when she was a little girl, you have so much water in your chart, and you're so emotional, and that's why you've got the gift of sight. And that's what I get from my own problems. In the past, you had 10 of Cups, a very loving family, or people that were like family to you, that used to look out for you, possibly in a work situation. It can mean having children and looking after them and raising them well, and just being emotionally fulfilled with the 2 children there, and there's the mum and dad on the boat onto Avalon. This is the card in the recent past. I see this like the beginning of something. So the birth of a child. Could have been one of the children that you had with this past partner, and they would have been, or you could just have a childlike nature. The Fool card is also you being a little bit too trusting. Sometimes that happens. If you've got a very open heart, then you can possibly see into children's hearts as well. So you may have that childlike quality that you haven't switched off, and that's why you're so open to things, because kids are very open. When they're little, they pick up on stuff and energy, and they'll sense something long before it comes in the room, and they'll just cry. With animals, it's the same in a sense. A dog can know when someone's coming, even though it's like 5 miles away, or you're on a bus and it can smell you coming towards the house because it's like watchdog material. My mum's dog Lily knows when I'm going to visit. She starts to bark. It's like this inner watchdog. So I'm guessing when I had this vision of the end of the world, I can remember I did see the end of the world. If we have this war, this will happen. I saw nothing. I couldn't hear any sound except the howling of dogs. They call it the hounds of hell. I believed I was in hell when I had this near-death experience, and everything was covered in white ash like Hiroshima. So it was like a nuclear thing, and I was hiding in the garage, and when I was seeing all this happening, it was like I was walking through, I was sleepwalking in my own house. And I was in the garage when they found me and took me to the hospital because I was seeing all this stuff and I couldn't stop hallucinating. And as I said, I saw everyone was dead, and all that was left on the earth was this car, a 4-wheel drive, a white Hilux 4-wheel drive, Toyota specific, and it was going around looking for signs of life. And the people that were on the earth were Air Force people, they were military, and they were knocking on doors to see if there was anyone left. And my family had died. I can remember my mum and my son were dead. And all that was left when I came inside was a scarf of hers and a ring. And my best friend had died next to me. This is what I was seeing. And that vampires, or they look like vampires, they were man-made robots that were hunting down humans like in the Terminator. And I was there trying to communicate with one person who was a friend of my friend's best friend. And I was communicating with the motorbike, and I was telling him to put the accelerator down or pull the accelerator off. And it was like I was inside his head. I could feel and sense where he was going to go next. And I was trying to push him because these humans were running from these vampire android, whatever you call it, like something that was created like military. And I was screaming, and I thought in my head after I came back from the hospital that there was aliens, and they had come to kill all the children, and they had come to cut all their heads off. And this alien was out the front of my door, I thought, and all I could see was blood everywhere, like that this alien had slaughtered everyone and was going to try to kill me. I still get flashbacks of that, not as often, but it was an intense thing, and I couldn't slow the world down. I couldn't slow all these things that were going really, really fast. So how I slowed it down was I did a yoga pose. I went anti-clockwise to my stomach, and then I slowed the world down to normal because everything was fast. Everything was quicker. And then when there was no life left on the planet, I had this vision of everyone on Mars, and these babies were being, like in that movie, Interstellar, they were creating these test tube babies, and they were reproducing up in Mars, and along with all these plants, like one species of plant from each species to repopulate and redo Mars because there was nothing left on the Earth. It was very intense. I wouldn't wish it upon anyone. I've got PTSD from it. Complex now. So we've got here the 9 of spring, and it's talking about your fruits of your labours. This is to do with immune systems and looking out for your immune system. You may be trying to find a way to keep your immune system healthy by natural therapies or by changing your diet or incorporating a vitamin supplement. I try and do both. I do vitamins and I do anti-inflammatory, and I do medicine and just lifestyle and diet. So it's saying here to watch your immune system, and if you're a defender of animals and people, it's saying to keep doing that because we have to protect our oceans and our fisheries, and we need to look after our earth if we are going to see it survive. The 2 of autumn is to do with juggling 2 jobs. So if you're looking for work right now, it won't be long before you find something very good, and you'll have 2 jobs to try and balance, which is great because then you can get ahead financially if you're trying to rebuild, as I am, since I'd lost everything and gave everything away. I gave an entire 3-bedroom house of furniture away to a single mum. I did that before I moved, when I moved here, after I lost another job because of politics in the workplace. And so I thought, what can I do to fill in my time? So I pulled apart this storage bin and I donated it to Nova for a single mum who really needed it. So it's saying here, making big career changes in your career, and it's exhausting if you don't like what you're doing. Make everything you do joyful. You can balance work with play. If you seek out the fun in every moment, even in the small pleasures are small in relative terms, they can lead to greater and greater happiness. The law of attraction sees you being playful and delivers to you more and more fun. Find the humour in your situation and your concerns will fade away. A beautiful fairy attempts to keep many magic balls in the air at once. She's doing a fair job, but where is the fun? So it says to make big changes in your career in the future. Some people do this as a hobby, and some make this, what I'm doing, a career. I'm trying to make it a career, but I've got to get so many hits on YouTube. So if you like what you hear, like and share it. That would be really good. I'm not doing personal readings at the moment. I'm just having a break because my body's burnt out. So I'm just trying to get well. The High Priestess is to do with someone like yourself who is highly intuitive. You could have been a high priestess in your past life and it's passed on to this life. I did a reading for my son, Christopher, and it picked up that he's had 3 lifetimes as a witch, warlock, seer. And he's come through again as a high priestess. He's highly intuitive. He was the baby that was on the building in the rubble before he was born. I was 8 months pregnant with him, and I saw these 2 towers and all this rubble, and underneath this angel's wing was Christopher, the baby, who had massive curls, and he was the most beautiful child. And so when I woke up and I was like, oh, God, what's going to happen? I put the news on. My Uncle Robert visited me and asked me where my mum was. I turned the television on, and the Twin Towers were showing the plane hitting the towers and the rubble. And apparently there was still some people trying to jump off the top of the towers. I know that's what I had a flashback of when I had a near-death experience. And all I could hear was these screams and people screaming. And I think Christopher came through from a past life as a medical person because they were having conferences there at the time. and he was a black African American, because he has a very strong affinity with all the basketball players like Jordan, and I just have this sense that, and he's always very protective. So that's what I've seen for him. So it's saying here, if you are, like me, a fellow psychic medium, take time to regenerate, be like a scorpion, hide in your little shell, wear black or blue. Navy blue is good for protection against people's negative energy, or if they're jealous of you and they're trying to harm you. Know that you're protected by the church. If you are working with people or trying to find missing people, I ask the police if they need any help to find someone. I can try and locate them, but I need something more than a photograph. I need a piece of clothing, so because I'm looking for them in my mind when I'm asleep. So we've got here the Lovers. This is a really good card. This is like returning to good health, and it talks about a long-lasting relationship. The military, someone could be in military. They are an air sign, and they are Aquarius, Libra, or Gemini. The military is representing devotion and courage, and a return to good health and a true love. You are perfect matches, and you will be very happy together. Now, this man or woman is military. They may come across a bit cold. They're just detached, because they have to detach from emotion in order to do their job, in order to go and fight off the war or go to war. They have to detach from feeling anything, so that they can be hardened up to kill people, to eradicate the enemy. So this can talk about an engagement, true love, excellent health, magical and long-lasting love. The card indicates you're about to enter into a significant relationship in your life. If you're already in one, this card signals that positive changes are possible at this time. The kind of romance that comes with this card is powerful and often has a past life connection. This card also refers to the need to make an important decision. Whether related to relationship issues or not, it's time to have be sure to have a great emotional impact. This isn't an intellectual choice, but rather made from the heart. And while you may not know what to do, you'll feel absolutely the right actions. It's following the Holy Grail, and it's following your heart. And we've got here 3 of Cups. That's a celebration, engagement, wedding, birthday. Someone could be celebrating a birthday, but also an engagement as well. It could be both. You could be going to both. And it can also represent 3 friends, or a group of girls, or a group of best mates that hang out together, that you like to party with, and the power of 3. That's what I think it is, the power of 3. And with Wicca, they talk about the maiden, the mother, and the crone. So in the movie Mission Impossible, Tom Cruise did this movie. I can't remember the name of it, but they had the three triplets that were born, and they were submerged, and they were just paid to sleep, put induced into a dreamlike state so they could get their visions. Minority Report, that's what it's called. And he was brilliant in that movie. And so he was trying to find his son, and he ended up getting rid of an eye so he could pass to someone else, because the 3 fates saw him kill someone in a future event. So that he was under suspicion, and he had to go into hiding, and he had to change his entire appearance and take an eye out and have a plastic eye replaced. And that's kind of what reminds me of the vision I had, is that when I was having a near death, it's like I died and someone brought me back to life, but I was a different person. I wasn't the same person, and they replaced my eyes with plastic, and they had to get the colour right. I can remember them talking, I was half in and out of consciousness, and they said, no, it needs to be like a swamp. It needs to be darker green, the hazel eye, like a dark swamp green eye colour. We need to get the colour right. And it was when I remember being up in the hospital and shaving my head. No one's actually said if I did or not, but I believe I did. And I don't know how my hair grew back, but I remember having no hair. So yeah, I'm still trying to figure out what actually I did see and what I didn't see, and what's truth and what's fiction, because I've still got memories and they're disjointed. They're not fully formed. But one day it'll come back, I believe, with therapy, with hypnotherapy. I'm going to try just about anything to get all those memories to make sense of what happened. Now, this is the cards of the Enchanted Map, the Oracle cards. We've got, speaking of water, this sacred pool. You need to immerse yourself in water because that is your friend. Being near water or a body of water, very important for a Cancer, Scorpio, or Pisces. You may need to drink more water, have cold showers, like I do, to bring down fever and inflammation, which causes hallucinations. I need to keep cool all the time. You may live in a palace. So for some specific person, you could be a king, a queen, a duchess, a duke. In the last reading I did, I picked up something on Crown Prince Frederick and Queen and Mary. For some reason I talked about Hans Christian Andersen fairy tales, and I believe that they were such a perfect couple, and how they met was so out of the world. They met in Australia and in the slip-in, and a pub I used to go to all the time. And she was just this little real estate agent, and now she's a queen. So something like that. You've got to, maybe you have the king's ear, so to speak, or people are interested in what you have to see, or insights that you see. Because if you can pick up something like COVID and then pick up something like a great war, then wouldn't you want to try and work backwards from that and prevent it? That's what I'd be doing if I was a king or queen, trying to figure out a way to stop what I saw. 47. When you look into the mirror, do you like what you see? The sacred pool asks that you focus on self-love, self-esteem. We are all works in progress. A detached self-examination made with rigorous honesty is called for now. Reflect by the sacred pool and be at peace with yourself. Can you see how far you've come and how magical your life is? Do you not notice the spark of the divine through your eyes when you're conscious that you're the embodiment of spirit? It becomes easier to respect yourself and act in good conscience, then you'll reap the rewards. Your unique service to the world is not only needed but celebrated. See the love within you and know that if you cast it upon the waters, it will return to you tenfold. Be at peace, for you are beautiful and loved. Act with surety and confidence, and success shall be yours, whatever your inquiry. And the sacred pool, this actually picture is depicted with the girl floating, is the classic neo-romanticism era called Ophelia. It's one of my favourite paintings, and that's what that is about. A submerged Ophelia, I think, also represents the old King Excalibur, where they pulled the sword, and they called her the Lady of the Lake. And she pulled the sword out and gave it to King Arthur. To Merlin. And then Merlin put it into the sword and the stone. I don't know why I'm going off on this tangent, but it's coming to me. So someone must like this painting or relates, because I'm talking about kings and queens. King Arthur in the Round Table has something to do with this sword of truth, to cut through the inaccuracies and get to the truth or the heart of the matter. Now, I know the king's being coronated in May, King Charles, so maybe there's something to do with a sword that he needs to carry on his coronation across the chalices, the chalices, the underwater well that the kings used to walk up in order to be coronated. He'll have to walk up that way where he gets coronated, I think in Glastonbury Church. So it's talking about the Golden Palace, 23. Something about number 5. Is there 5 people that you are not getting along with, or 5 opinions on what you should and shouldn't do? Or maybe something happened to you at 5. It's sort of talking about the number 5. And this year is a 23. It's a 5 year. And 5 is all about, well, there's a famous castle, a well. It's called the Book of Kells, that was kept in the Scottish church and then moved to Ireland because the Vikings were trying to break in and steal pages from it. It's a very sacred book. And Kelly is a 5-lettered word. That's my name. And there's 5 roads that lead into Kell, the Tower of Kell. So something to do with the number 5. 5 can also represent work and steady streams of income. So you may get lots of work, hopefully, this year, if you're looking at expanding what you do. You might get help with like a Fortune 500 company, or pyramid scheme, because that's a 5 pyramid schemes. Something from home, you might do something from home. So, the Golden Palace represents good fortune, ambitions fulfilled, wealth and prosperity. It can also indicate emotional fulfillment. And perhaps you're entering a time of happiness that's long overdue. The message here is that self-worth isn't measured by what you have, no matter how abundant your life appears to be or not. It comes from where you are, how authentically you're living your life, and how much love you're willing to share. Granted, receiving this card does indicate material gain and a furthering of tangible rewards, but things come and go, and knowing your true value leads to even greater riches now. It says to share the wealth. So, yeah, I guess that's what happens when someone passes away. You inherit, sometimes you inherit rings, or you inherit genetic coding. You could inherit a psychic ability that's passed down through generational DNA. That's all I have for you today for water.